Growing older comes with tough choices, and for many, moving into a nursing home feels like the safest path. But what if that decision comes with regrets no one warned you about? I'm 82 now, and after living in a nursing home, I've discovered 6 painful truths I wish I'd known before I moved in. If you're considering this step for yourself or a loved one, please watch until the end. These are lessons learned too late, and they might just change how you think about your future. This is my honest story, and I hope it helps you make a better choice. Regret 1. Losing my independence. The biggest shock after moving into a nursing home wasn't the small room, the set meal times, or even the unfamiliar faces. It was the sudden realization that I had lost control over my own life. Before I moved in, I had my routines. I woke up when I wanted. I made my own breakfast, sometimes eggs, sometimes just toast and jam. I could take a walk around the block if the weather was nice or sit quietly in my favorite chair with a good book. I was still living life on my terms. But once I entered the nursing home, everything changed. Suddenly, my time was no longer my own. Breakfast was served at a fixed hour, whether I was hungry or not. Lights were out at a certain time, even if I wasn't tired. If I wanted to go outside for some fresh air, I had to wait until someone was available to help me. Even then, I sometimes felt like I was being a bother just for asking. Simple decisions, like what to wear, what to eat, or how to spend my afternoon, started to feel like privileges instead of basic rights. I wasn't deciding my day anymore. I was fitting into a system built for efficiency, not individuality. I remember my first week vividly. I woke up in a bed that didn't feel like mine, in a room that felt more like a hospital than a home. I reached for the book I had been reading at home, but it wasn't there. My books, my photos, the little things I had surrounded myself with, they were mostly gone. In their place were sterile walls and a quiet that didn't bring peace. The hardest part? Realizing that once you give up your independence, it's almost impossible to get it back. You stop pushing back. You stop asking for things. You start to adapt, because that's what everyone expects. But in doing so, you slowly lose yourself. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, ask yourself, are you ready to give up the small freedoms that make life yours? Because once they're gone, you'll miss them more than you ever thought possible. Regret 2. Feeling forgotten. One of the hardest truths about moving into a nursing home is realizing how quickly the world outside forgets you. When I first arrived, my family promised they'd visit often. And in the beginning, they did. My daughter would stop by once a week. My grandchildren would come on weekends, bringing laughter and stories. For a little while, it felt like I was still connected to the life I had before. But then life got busy. The visits became phone calls. The phone calls became texts. And slowly, those messages stopped coming as often too. Holidays were the hardest. Everyone said they'd come. Everyone said they'd make it work. But someone always had a last-minute change of plans. Suddenly, I found myself sitting in the common room, watching the door, hoping today would be the day someone remembered me. Most days, it wasn't. It's not that my family stopped loving me. I know they care. But when you're not part of everyday life anymore, it's easy for people to forget just how much you still need them. They assume you're doing fine. They assume you're adjusting. They assume silence means everything is okay. But it's not. I remember one evening, sitting on the edge of my bed, holding my phone. I wanted to call my son. Just to hear his voice. Just to feel like I mattered to someone that day. But I didn't. I told myself I didn't want to bother him. I told myself he was probably busy. So I set the phone down and stared at the wall in silence. That silence? It stays with you. This is the part people don't talk about. How being in a nursing home can make you feel invisible. You become a name on a chart. A routine stop for staff. A story your family tells when asked how grandma is doing. If you're considering moving into a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the loneliness? Because no matter how much your family loves you, once you're out of sight, it becomes surprisingly easy to slip out of mind. Regret 3. Losing my sense of purpose. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was just changing where I lived. I didn't realize I was also giving up the reason I got out of bed each morning. At home, I had things to do, small things maybe, but they mattered. I watered the plants, made my own coffee, folded the laundry, and straightened up the living room. I chose what to cook and when to eat. I even helped neighbors with little errands or phone calls. Those tasks gave structure to my day. More than that, they gave me purpose. But in the nursing home, everything is done for you. Meals arrive at set times. Your laundry is taken care of. There's no kitchen to cook in. The bed is made by someone else. At first, I thought it would be a relief. No more chores. No more stress. Just time to relax. But then the days started to feel empty. Without responsibilities, I felt like I was just existing. I wasn't needed anymore. And that feeling of not being needed is one of the most painful things I've ever experienced. There was a man here named George. He was 84 and had been a carpenter his whole life. At home, he built birdhouses, repaired furniture, even fixed things around the neighborhood. His hands were always busy. But once he moved in, there were no tools. No projects. No one asking for his help. I remember seeing him sit in the lounge, staring at his hands like they didn't belong to him anymore. One day he looked at me and said, "I used to build things. Now I just wait for lunch." That hit me hard. When you no longer have something to take care of, something to build, clean, improve, you start fading. Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Because once you're here, finding purpose isn't about filling your time, it's about fighting to hold on to what makes you feel alive. And that's not something anyone else can do for you. Regret 4. Declining health faster than expected. Before I moved into the nursing home, I was doing pretty well for someone in their 80s. I wasn't hiking up mountains, but I could still take care of myself. I walked every day, cooked my meals, and did little chores that kept my body moving and my mind sharp. I thought moving into a nursing home would make life easier, not weaker. At first, it felt like a break. Meals were brought to me, and I didn't have to worry about cleaning or laundry. If I needed anything, I could press a button and someone would come help. It seemed like a gift. But slowly, I began to notice the cost of all that help. I stopped walking as much because I didn't need to. I stopped standing in the kitchen. I sat more, sometimes for hours, because there wasn't much else to do. And without realizing it, I started to lose strength. What used to be simple, getting out of a chair, bending down to pick something up, became harder. My legs felt heavier, my balance wasn't as steady, and I found myself feeling tired more often. And I wasn't the only one. I watched it happen to others around me. People who came in walking with confidence were soon relying on walkers, then wheelchairs. The less we moved, the more we needed assistance. It's a slow decline, but one that happens faster than you'd expect when you stop using your body every day. I remember my neighbor Alice, an 81-year-old firecracker, when she arrived. She walked laps around the building, proud of her independence. But after a few months, she started slowing down. First a cane, then a walker, then a wheelchair. One day she looked at me and said, "I feel like I've aged 10 years in just a few months." She was right. That's exactly what it felt like. If I had known how quickly I'd lose my strength, I would have fought harder to keep moving. I would have made daily activity non-negotiable, not optional. So if you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, will you have the motivation to stay active when everything is designed to make life effortless? Because the truth is, once you stop moving, it's harder than you think to start again. Regret 5. The loss of privacy and dignity. One of the things I never fully considered before moving into a nursing home was how much privacy I would lose, and how deeply that loss would affect me. At home, I had my own space. My own room. My own bathroom. I could close the door, sit in silence, and do things on my terms. If I wanted to take a nap at 2 p.m. or stay in pajamas all day, I could. That freedom was part of my dignity, part of what made me feel like myself. But in the nursing home, that changed almost immediately. From the first day, I felt like I was always being observed. Staff would come in and out for wellness checks, medication rounds, meals, and cleaning, sometimes without knocking or waiting for a response. I knew they were just doing their jobs, but I couldn't help but feel like I had lost a basic human right, the right to personal space. Simple things became scheduled events. Want a shower? You'll need to wait until someone's available. Need to use the bathroom? Push the call button, and hope you don't wait too long. And when help finally comes, It often means exposing yourself in ways that are uncomfortable, even humiliating. I had to ask for assistance with things I'd done independently for over 80 years, getting dressed, brushing my hair, even choosing what to wear. Each time chipped away at my sense of self. And then there's the matter of roommates. Not everyone gets a private room. You might end up sharing your most personal moments with a complete stranger, someone you didn't choose, who may have habits that clash with your own. I was lucky. My roommate was kind and respectful. But others weren't so fortunate. I heard stories, residents paired with people who shouted through the night, who never cleaned up after themselves, who couldn't remember where they were. It's hard to feel dignified in an environment where your autonomy is reduced to a schedule and your privacy is constantly interrupted. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you ready to give up the quiet control you've had your whole life? Because once it's gone, you realize just how valuable and rare it really was. Regret 6. Realizing it's harder to leave than you think. When I first moved into the nursing home, I told myself it was temporary. Just a trial. I'd give it a few months, see how it went, and if I didn't like it, I'd leave. But what I didn't realize was how difficult it would be to actually get out once I was in. At first, it sounded simple. If it didn't work out, I'd go back home. But over time, that plan started to unravel. My house, which had sat empty for months, had begun to deteriorate. Maintenance became an issue. My children had started selling things, believing I wouldn't need them anymore. They even mentioned renting the place out, just in case. When I finally said, I think I want to come home, the hesitation in their eyes said everything. Are you sure you can manage on your own? Wouldn't it be safer to stay here? We just want what's best for you. That's when I realized something had shifted, not just in their minds, but in mine too. I wasn't as strong anymore. I wasn't as confident. Months of depending on others had chipped away at my independence. I had stopped cooking, stopped cleaning, even stopped walking as much. I didn't know if I could handle living alone again, even if I wanted to. And I wasn't alone. I met others who had the same story. People who moved in thinking it was temporary, only to find that their former life had slowly slipped out of reach. Some had sold their homes. Others had used up their savings. A few were simply too physically frail to go back. No one told us that moving in might be a one-way door. That's the part many families don't talk about. That once you're here, leaving is no longer just a personal decision. It's a logistical, financial, and emotional challenge. And the longer you stay, the harder it gets. If you're thinking about a nursing home, ask yourself, are you truly ready for what that commitment means? Because the truth is, once you cross that threshold, going back might not be as easy, or even possible, as you think. Looking back, I don't regret growing older, but I do regret not asking more questions before moving into a nursing home. What seemed like a safe, simple choice ended up changing nearly every part of my life. My independence, my purpose, my privacy, and even my ability to leave. Nursing homes aren't necessarily bad. They serve a real need for many. But they come with trade-offs that aren't always clear at the start. That's why I shared my story, not to scare you, but to help you make a fully informed decision. If you or someone you love is considering this path, I urge you to think carefully. Explore other options. Ask the hard questions. And above all, don't assume that moving in means you can easily move out. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned, or one question you still have. And if you found this video valuable, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Your support helps us continue making content that informs, empowers, and connects. Thank you for watching, and take care.